Hello, everyone. Welcome to English in Advance. I'm Jessica, your host for today. This is the place where we move beyond textbooks and grammar rules and step into the real living world of English. We're here to help you learn to speak English fluently, naturally, and with the kind of confidence that comes from genuine understanding. Are you ready to truly transform your English listening and speaking skills? Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you understand English on paper, but struggle to keep up with native speakers in a real conversation? Perhaps you want to express your thoughts and feelings more clearly, more confidently, without pausing to search for the right words. If that sounds like you, then you are in exactly the right place. In today's episode, we are going to dive deep into the world of daily English conversation. We'll listen to real-life stories, explore useful vocabulary and expressions, and practice speaking together. Listening to these stories will help you understand how English is used in everyday situations. And by repeating the phrases with me, you will build the muscle memory you need to improve your speaking skills, one sentence at a time. Let's begin with a simple question. Have you ever had a moment where you completely misunderstood someone speaking English? It happens to the best of us. Imagine you're trying to order food in a busy restaurant, but the waiter just can't seem to understand your request. Or maybe you're in a work meeting, talking to a colleague, but you miss a crucial detail in the conversation. These moments can feel frustrating, even a little embarrassing, but they are also powerful learning opportunities. Let me share a story about my friend Leo. A few years ago, he took his first trip to London. He was incredibly excited but also quite nervous about using his English in such a fast-paced city. On his very first morning, he walked into a charming little cafe to grab some breakfast. He'd been dreaming of a proper English breakfast, so he walked up to the counter and said, with all the confidence he could muster, "Can I have a full English breakfast and a cup of tea, please?" But the young man behind the counter, who was rushing to serve a long line of customers, looked at him with a puzzled expression and said, "Sorry, mate, what was that?" Leo repeated himself, a little slower this time. The cashier still looked confused. Leo's heart started to beat a little faster. He could feel his cheeks getting warm. Just then, another customer in line leaned over and said to the cashier, "He's after the full English, the big breakfast." Suddenly, a look of recognition flashed across the cashier's face. "Oh, right! The fry-up! Got it. One fry-up coming right up." That small moment taught Leo a very important lesson. Sometimes it's not just about knowing the words, it's about knowing the different words people use for the same thing. He knew full English breakfast, but the cashier and the other customer used casual slang like fry-up. He also realized that pronunciation and the speed of conversation make a huge difference. What he had learned in his quiet classroom was very different from the reality of a noisy, busy London cafe. This is precisely why listening practice is so fundamental. The more you immerse yourself in real, authentic English, the more natural the rhythm and vocabulary become. And when you hear these common phrases over and over again, you'll feel so much more confident using them yourself. Now let's consider another very common situation. My cousin, Maya, recently moved to Australia for her studies. She had a strong grasp of English grammar and a wide vocabulary. But when she arrived, she found it incredibly difficult to follow group conversations. People spoke quickly. They used a lot of slang she'd never heard before, and they often talked over each other. One afternoon, she was in a study group and her classmate said, "All right, I reckon we should knock off for the day. I'm knackered." Maya was completely lost. What did reckon mean? What was knock off? And who was knackered? She just nodded and smiled, pretending to understand. Later that evening, she looked up the words. She discovered that reckon means think or believe. Knock off means to finish work or an activity. And knackered is a very common way to say extremely tired. This small phrase held so much meaning, but it was completely new to her. From that day on, Maya started keeping a small notebook. Whenever she heard a new word or expression, she would write it down and ask her friends about it later. She learned that "g'day" was a common greeting, that "arvo" meant afternoon, and that "no worries" was used for everything from "you're welcome" to "it's okay." Here's a powerful tip for you, inspired by Maya's experience. When you hear a new phrase, don't just try to memorize its definition. Pay close attention to the context. Who said it? What was the situation? What was their tone of voice? Try repeating the phrase out loud. And then, when you feel brave enough, try using it in one of your own conversations. The more you practice, the more these expressions will feel like a natural part of your own English. Now let's take a moment to reflect on your own journey. Have you ever been in a situation where you didn't understand something in English? Perhaps you misheard a single word that changed the meaning of the entire sentence. Or maybe you weren't familiar with a particular idiom. What did you do? How did you handle that moment? Imagine you're checking into a hotel and the person at the front desk says, "Would you like me to put this on your tab?" If you're not familiar with this phrase, you might be very confused. A tab in this context is an account, a bill that you will pay later when you check out. These small but significant phrases are everywhere in real life. That's why listening to real, unscripted conversations is the most effective way to improve your English. Let's do a very quick practice exercise together. I'm going to say a short, useful sentence, and I want you to repeat it after me out loud. Ready? "I'd like to book a table for 2, please." Now you try. Excellent. Let's try one more. "Could you speak a little more slowly, please?" Your turn. Fantastic. These are simple, polite phrases that can be incredibly helpful in everyday situations. The more you listen and the more you repeat, the more confident you will feel. Let's continue with another story that highlights a different kind of challenge. A few years ago, my friend Ben moved to Toronto for a new job. He was thrilled because it was his dream to work for an international tech company. He had studied English for many years, but his learning had been very formal, focused on academic writing and grammar exercises. He believed he was fully prepared. But when he arrived in Toronto, he discovered that real-life conversations were much harder to navigate than he had ever imagined. On his first day at his new job, his manager, a friendly woman named Sarah, introduced him to the team. Everyone was welcoming, but they spoke so quickly, and their conversations were filled with cultural references and expressions he had never encountered in his textbooks. At lunchtime, one of his colleagues, a man named Jake, turned to him and said, "Hey, Ben, you want to go grab a poutine?" Ben was completely baffled. He thought, grab a what? What is a poutine? He hesitated for a moment, then just gave a nervous smile and said, sure. He followed Jake and the others to a nearby food truck, still feeling completely clueless about what was happening. When they got their food, he finally understood. Poutine was a famous Canadian dish of French fries, cheese curds, and gravy. The phrase, grab a poutine, was just a very casual way of saying, go and get some poutine to eat. It was such a simple, friendly invitation, but because he had never heard the word or the casual phrasing before, it had left him feeling confused and isolated. That day, he realized that even though his vocabulary was extensive, he needed much more practice listening to how people actually speak in their daily lives. Ben decided to create a plan for himself. Every morning, he started listening to a local Toronto radio show during his commute. At lunchtime, instead of eating at his desk, he made a conscious effort to join his colleagues in the break room. At first, it was a real challenge. He didn't always understand every joke or every story, and he often felt too nervous to speak up. But instead of remaining silent, he started to ask simple, honest questions. He'd say things like, "Sorry, I'm not familiar with that term. What does it mean?" Or, "Could you explain that joke to me?" His colleagues were always happy to explain, and slowly but surely he began to feel more included, and his understanding improved dramatically. One day, he was in a team meeting, and his manager, Sarah, said, "All right, everyone, let's wrap things up for today." This time, instead of feeling lost, Ben knew exactly what she meant. Let's finish the meeting. He felt a quiet sense of accomplishment. Just a few weeks earlier, that simple phrase would have gone right over his head. This is such an important lesson for anyone learning English. Sometimes the individual words are not difficult, but the way people combine them in natural, fast-paced conversation can be completely different from what you see in a textbook. That's why active listening practice is so crucial. The more you expose yourself to natural English, the more comfortable and confident you will feel when you speak. Now let's think about another real-life situation that can be quite daunting. Traveling. Imagine you are traveling to an English-speaking country for the first time. You arrive at the airport and you have to go through immigration. The officer looks at your passport and asks you, "What's the purpose of your visit?" If you're not familiar with this standard question, you might feel a surge of panic. What do they mean by purpose? Are they questioning my reason for being here? What is the right thing to say? But if you have practiced listening to common travel conversations, you will know that the answer is usually very simple. Something like, "I'm here on holiday," or "I'm here to visit my family." A few months ago, my cousin Clara traveled to the United States. She was quite confident in her English ability, but the formal environment of the airport made her nervous. The immigration officer asked her, "Do you have anything to declare?" She froze. The word declare sounded so serious, so official. She started to worry. Did I pack something I wasn't supposed to? Am I in some kind of trouble? She took a deep breath and said, "I'm sorry, I don't understand the question." The officer, seeing her confusion, kindly rephrased it. "Are you carrying any fresh food, plants, or more than $10,000 in cash?" Now she understood. To declare simply meant to officially report something she was bringing into the country. She smiled with relief and said, "Oh no, I don't have anything to declare." The officer stamped her passport and she was on her way. Later, she told me about the situation and we had a good laugh. She realized the problem wasn't her English proficiency. It was simply her lack of exposure to that specific vocabulary in a real-world context. This is why listening to conversations from a wide range of situations is so incredibly helpful. The more you hear these phrases used in their natural context, the easier it will be for you to understand and respond without hesitation. Let's do another quick practice exercise together. I'll say some common questions you might hear at an airport, and I want you to repeat them after me. Ready? Where are you traveling from? Inaue. Your turn. Excellent. Here's another one. Do you have a return ticket? Try saying it aloud. Nyohan, great job. The more you practice both listening and speaking, the more confident you will feel when you find yourself in these real-life situations. Now let's talk about another moment where listening skills can make a huge difference. Ordering food and drinks. Imagine you're in a busy, trendy cafe in New York City. You walk up to the counter and the barista smiles and says, "What can I get for you?" If you're prepared, you can simply say, "I'd like a cappuccino, please." But what if they follow up with, "For here or to go?" If you're not familiar with this very common question, you might feel a moment of confusion. A friend of mine, David, had this exact experience when he first visited the United States. He walked into a coffee shop and ordered a latte. The cashier asked, "For here or to go?" David hesitated. He'd never heard this phrase before. He made an educated guess that to go probably meant takeaway, so he said, "To go." Luckily, he was right. But in that moment, he felt a wave of anxiety because he wasn't 100% sure. After that, he started to pay very close attention to how people ordered food and drinks. He noticed that in America, people often say, "Can I get a," instead of the more formal, "I would like." He also learned that "that'll be" is a very common way for cashiers to tell you the total price. For example, the cashier might say, "That'll be $5.50. If you don't recognize this phrase, you might not realize they are telling you the price is $5.50. But once you hear it a few times, it becomes completely natural. This is why real-life listening is so powerful. It fills in the gaps that textbooks often leave out. The more you hear these everyday phrases, the more confident you will feel when it's your turn to speak. Let's practice a couple of these right now. I'll say some common phrases you might hear in a cafe. Please repeat after me. What can I get for you? Now you say it. Fantastic. Here's another one. That'll be $5.50, please. Try saying it aloud. When you actively listen and repeat, your brain becomes accustomed to the sounds and rhythms of English, which makes speaking much easier. Let's continue with another important area where both listening and speaking skills are essential. Making small talk. Small talk is the kind of light, casual conversation you have with people in everyday situations. Like when you meet a new colleague or when you're waiting in line at the post office. It's a skill that can feel a little intimidating at first, but once you get the hang of it, it can become one of the most enjoyable and effective ways to improve your fluency and build connections. A few months ago, a friend of mine named Isabella, who is from Brazil, moved to a new city for work. She had studied English for many years and was very good with grammar and vocabulary, but she was incredibly nervous about speaking with strangers, especially when it came to making small talk. She initially thought that small talk was trivial, not as important as serious academic conversations. But she quickly discovered that it was a huge part of daily social and professional life. Her first week at her new office was a bit overwhelming. During lunch, her colleague, a friendly man named Tom, invited her to join him and a few others in the kitchen area. Isabella felt hesitant. She didn't know these people well, and she was afraid she might say something awkward or incorrect. When they all sat down, Tom turned to her and asked, "So, how was your weekend?" Isabella froze for a second. It was a simple question, but her mind went blank. She didn't know if she should share personal details or just give a simple, generic answer. She finally managed to say, "It was good. I visited a museum." That was a safe answer, she thought. But then Tom smiled and said, "Oh, that sounds interesting. Which museum did you go to?" Isabella realized then that small talk wasn't a test. It was simply a way to connect with people on a human level. It was an invitation to share a small piece of her life. Over the next few weeks, she became much more comfortable. She started asking her colleagues questions like, "Are you enjoying this sunny weather?" Or, "Do you have any fun plans for the upcoming holiday?" And she was amazed at how easily the conversations started to flow. Through these simple interactions, Isabella learned something incredibly valuable. Small talk isn't just about filling silence. It's about building bridges between people. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. And when you listen carefully to others, you pick up so many useful phrases and expressions that help you speak more fluently. For example, when Tom asked about Isabella's weekend, he didn't use a formal structure. He said, "How was your weekend?" This is a very common and friendly way to ask about someone's recent experiences. When you hear these expressions in real conversations, they start to stick in your memory, and soon you'll be able to use them effortlessly yourself. Here's another helpful tip for small talk. People don't usually expect long, detailed answers. It's more about a balanced exchange. Giving a simple response and then asking a question back to the other person. When you're practicing, listen for these conversational cues. For instance, someone might say, "The weekend was relaxing, but it felt way too short." This shows they're sharing a little bit about their experience, but they're also creating an opening for you to share yours. Isabella started using this technique and found it incredibly helpful. Instead of worrying about crafting the perfect sentence, she focused on the natural back and forth of the conversation. One of the most useful phrases Isabella picked up was, "What about you?" After someone asked her how her weekend was, she learned to respond with something like, "It was great, thanks." "I tried a new restaurant downtown. What about you?" These small, everyday conversations will do wonders for your listening and speaking skills, and you'll begin to feel much more at ease in social situations. This is the kind of learning that simply can't be replicated in a textbook. It's about engaging with real people, paying attention to the nuances of how they speak, and actively practicing how you respond. Now let's shift gears and talk about something else that often challenges English learners: understanding different accents. When you are learning English, you might find it difficult to understand the variety of accents and regional dialects. Whether it's a British, American, Australian, or even a regional accent from within the same country, learning to understand these variations is a crucial part of mastering the language. Let's pause for a moment. I want you to think about your own journey with English. Have you had moments where you felt unsure or completely lost in a conversation? Maybe you were listening to someone who spoke very quickly, or you didn't understand a piece of slang or an idiom. It happens to every single one of us, and it is a natural and necessary part of learning a new language. The key is to not let those moments discourage you. You must keep practicing and keep engaging with real conversations. Every time you listen, you improve, even if it's just a little bit. Remember, English isn't just a subject you study in books. It's a living tool that you experience through conversations, stories, and real-life interactions. Whether it's making small talk with a new acquaintance, ordering dinner at a restaurant, or simply listening to a friend tell a story, every single moment is an opportunity to get better. By listening to these real stories, you start to internalize the natural rhythm and melody of English. You learn how words flow together seamlessly in sentences, how people express a whole range of emotions, and how to use the right phrases at the right time. This is the kind of deep practice that will help you sound more natural and feel more authentic when you speak. When I was visiting New York City a couple of years ago, I got a little bit lost while walking around. I decided to stop and ask someone for directions. I approached a friendly-looking woman and said, "Excuse me, can you tell me how to get to the nearest subway station?" She smiled and replied, "Yeah, no problem. Just go straight down this street, hang a left at the next light, and you'll see it right on your right. Can't miss it." It was simple enough, but I was struck by how quickly she spoke. She didn't slow down for me, and I had to listen very intently to catch all the details. In that moment, I was reminded of how important it is to focus not just on the words themselves, but on how they are delivered. Native speakers often speak quickly, and they use shortcuts or casual expressions that you might not find in your learning materials. For instance, when the woman said, "Hang a left at the next light," she was using a very common informal phrase meaning, "turn left at the traffic lights." It was casual and quick, but once I understood it, I realized how useful it would be to remember for future conversations. To improve your skills in this area, start by learning common phrases for asking for and giving directions. You'll often hear people say things like, "Go straight and turn left, it's just around the corner and it's a few blocks away." These are all incredibly useful phrases that you will encounter frequently. When you're practicing, listen to how native speakers use these phrases. By listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos, or enjoying movies, you'll hear these expressions used in many different contexts. After you've practiced listening, try to visualize yourself in the situation. Maybe you're lost in a new city and you need to ask for help. Practicing these kinds of conversations in your mind, or even out loud to yourself, will help you feel much more prepared when you're actually in that situation. Let's move on to another practical area that will help you with both listening and speaking: handling problems and complaints. This is another essential part of everyday life. Whether you're at a store, in a hotel, or interacting with customer service, knowing how to express your problems clearly and politely is a vital skill. I had an experience a few months ago when I was staying in a hotel for a conference. I checked into my room, but when I tried to connect to the Wi-Fi, it wasn't working. I called the front desk and said, "Excuse me, I'm having a problem with the Wi-Fi in my room. It doesn't seem to be connecting." The receptionist on the phone replied, "I'm so sorry to hear that. Let me check and see what I can do for you." After a few moments, she called me back and explained that the Wi-Fi was temporarily down for the entire floor, but that a technician was working on it and it should be fixed soon. She was polite and apologetic, which immediately made me feel more patient and understood. In this situation, I learned a few things that I want to share with you. First, when you have a problem, it's important to stay calm and explain the issue clearly. You can use phrases like, "I'm having trouble with," or "there seems to be a problem with," to describe the situation. Second, if someone is trying to help you, you should listen carefully to their response. They might use phrases like, "Let me look into that for you," or "I'll have someone take care of it right away." These are polite ways to show that they are taking your complaint seriously. By listening to these real-life examples, you'll be much better prepared to handle problems when they arise. The more you practice these types of conversations, the easier it will be to stay calm and confident when something goes wrong. And please remember not to be afraid to ask for clarification if you don't understand something. You can always say, "Could you explain that again, please?" Or, "I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Could you repeat it?" Imagine walking into a bustling cafe on a cool London morning. The wonderful aroma of freshly brewed coffee fills the air. As you approach the counter, the barista greets you with a cheerful, "What can I get you today?" For a moment, you might pause. This casual, friendly phrasing could be quite different from the formal language you've learned in your English classes. You reply confidently, "I'd like a latte, please." Then the barista adds, "That'll be $3.50. Would you like any pastry with that?" In that instant, you realize that real-life English is fast, friendly, and often beautifully informal. Now, take a moment and ask yourself, have you ever been surprised by the casual tone in a familiar situation? How did you respond when someone used expressions that you hadn't practiced in a classroom setting? I remember one day when I was visiting a small cafe in Shoreditch, I had expected a polite, formal exchange. Yet the friendly, informal language caught me completely off guard, in the best possible way. This taught me that adapting to different conversational styles is absolutely key to understanding everyday English. To practice this, try imagining yourself in that cafe. Visualize hearing, "What can I get for you?" and responding with your order. Repeat these phrases out loud until they feel completely natural and become a part of your active vocabulary. Let's move on to another very common scenario: asking for directions in a busy, unfamiliar city. Picture yourself in New York City, surrounded by the constant hum of traffic and the chatter of countless pedestrians. A few years back, I found myself wandering the vibrant streets of Manhattan, trying to find a famous museum. I approached a local and asked, "Excuse me, could you please tell me how to get to the Metropolitan Museum of Art?" The local replied, "Sure, just go straight for 2 blocks, then turn left at the big intersection, and you'll see the museum on your right." Listen carefully to this exchange. Notice the clear, concise instructions given at a natural pace. Ask yourself, have you ever been in a situation where someone spoke too quickly or used unfamiliar phrases when giving directions? How did you handle it? If you're not sure, consider practicing by repeating the directions out loud. Straight for 2 blocks, left at the intersection, museum on the right. Repetition like this builds your confidence in both understanding and using these essential everyday phrases. Now let's explore the art of making small talk, a fundamental part of building relationships in both personal and professional settings. I recall an afternoon at a local community event where I met a gentleman named Robert. He started our conversation with a simple, "Lovely weather today, isn't it?" I responded, "Yes, it's a beautiful day. I love how the sunshine brightens everything." That simple exchange opened up a pleasant discussion about our favorite outdoor activities, local parks, and weekend plans. Think about your own experiences. What topics do you naturally bring up when meeting someone new? Practice small talk by asking questions like, "How are you today?" Or, "What have you been up to lately?" The more you practice, the easier it becomes to keep a conversation flowing smoothly. Now let's add another layer by considering professional settings. Imagine you're in a virtual meeting with colleagues from all around the world. Your manager might say, "Let's circle back to that point later." At first, you might wonder what "circle back" means in this context. It simply means to return to a topic later in the discussion. When you encounter unfamiliar phrases in meetings, jot them down and ask for clarification if you need to. Reflect for a moment. Have you ever been confused by business jargon or idioms? Practice by repeating phrases like "circle back" until they become second nature to you. Next, consider the unique challenges of phone conversations. Unlike face-to-face talks, you have to rely solely on audio cues. I once made an important call to resolve an issue with my internet service. The customer service representative, John, said clearly, "Can you please describe the problem you are experiencing?" I explained, "My connection keeps dropping and it's very frustrating." John replied, "I understand. Let me run a diagnostic test on your line." His calm, clear tone helped me feel at ease. Picture yourself in a similar situation and repeat phrases like, "Could you please repeat that?" Or, "I'm sorry, I didn't catch that." These exercises can prepare you for real-life calls where clarity is absolutely crucial. Now let's explore a situation many of us face when traveling. Imagine arriving at an airport in an English-speaking country. The announcements over the intercom might sound something like, "Due to inclement weather, your flight will be delayed by 30 minutes. In that moment, you might feel anxious if you're not familiar with such phrasing. Later, when you ask a staff member, "Could you tell me what the delay is about?" they explain, "The delay is because of bad weather conditions." Consider practicing these scenarios at home. Repeat key phrases such as "flight delayed" and "inclement weather" until you feel comfortable using them. Another everyday conversation involves discussing hobbies and interests. Picture a quiet evening when you meet someone at a local event. They ask, "What do you enjoy doing in your free time?" You might reply, "I love reading, hiking, and trying out new recipes." This kind of conversation is a perfect opportunity to learn descriptive adjectives and expand your vocabulary. Think about your favorite hobby. What words would you use to describe it? Practicing these questions and answers builds not only your vocabulary, but also your confidence in sharing personal experiences. Let's engage in an interactive exercise right now. Repeat after me. "How are you today?" "What have you been up to lately?" "The weather is really nice, isn't it?" I'd love to hear more about that. Take your time with each sentence. Practice them until they roll off your tongue effortlessly. This kind of repetition builds muscle memory for natural, flowing conversation. Switching gears, let's delve into conversations at work, specifically handling meetings and presentations. I remember a meeting where our team leader said, "We need to finalize the project timeline by Friday." A colleague named Emily then asked, "Can everyone please confirm their availability for a meeting on Thursday?" You might respond with, "I'm available on Thursday and I'll send a calendar invite shortly." Reflect on this dialogue. Notice how clear, concise language is used to coordinate plans. If you work in a professional environment, practicing such exchanges can prepare you for real-life scenarios where accuracy and clarity are essential. Another memorable experience was during a business conference call. The host said, "Let's wrap up the discussion and summarize our key points." At that moment, I repeated the sentence in my head to make sure I understood. After the call, I reviewed the phrases wrap up, summarize, and key points. These are extremely common in professional settings. Ask yourself, how many times have you encountered these expressions in meetings? Now is a great time to practice them. Say them aloud until they become part of your working vocabulary. Let's consider a more challenging scenario, interacting with service providers when something goes wrong. Imagine you've booked a hotel room and find that the Wi-Fi isn't working. You call the front desk and say, "Excuse me, the Wi-Fi in my room isn't working. Could you please help me?" The receptionist responds, "I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Let me check on that for you." This exchange uses straightforward language, but it's crucial to speak clearly and listen carefully. Think about how you would handle a similar situation. Practice these key phrases and consider recording yourself to see where you might improve. Now picture yourself in a local market in Australia. A vendor enthusiastically shouts, "This is a Ripper deal." At first, you might wonder what Ripper means. Later, you learn that it is Australian slang for excellent or fantastic. This is a prime example of how listening to real-life conversations teaches you regional vocabulary and idioms that you might not find in a textbook. Reflect on any slang or idiomatic expressions you've heard recently. Write them down and try using them in your own sentences. Over time, these expressions will become a natural part of your speech. Another engaging scenario involves social gatherings with family and friends. Imagine sitting around a dinner table where everyone is sharing stories about their day. One relative asks, "What was the best part of your day?" You respond, "I had a wonderful conversation with a new friend at the cafe." This warm, informal exchange is common in family settings. Think about the simple yet powerful words you use during these conversations. Words like wonderful, enjoyable, and delightful. Practicing these expressions in a relaxed setting builds your confidence and reinforces your natural speaking style. Now let's talk about the role of digital communication in modern English practice. Email, instant messaging, and video calls have become part of our daily lives. For example, when writing a formal email for work, you might start with, "Dear Mr. Thompson, I hope this email finds you well," and close with, "Sincerely, Jessica." On the other hand, when texting a friend, you might simply write, "Hey, are we still on for dinner tonight?" Notice how the language shifts depending on the medium. Consider your own experiences with digital communication. Which style do you find most challenging? Practice both formal and informal writing to build a balanced skill set. Let's move on to a scenario involving cultural events. Imagine attending a local art exhibition where a curator explains a painting by saying, "This artwork reflects the artist's inner turmoil during a time of great change." You ask, "What inspired this style?" The curator replies, "The use of bold colors and dynamic brushstrokes represents the conflict between tradition and modernity." This conversation not only introduces you to artistic vocabulary, but also encourages you to express abstract ideas. Think about how you would describe a piece of art or a cultural event. Practicing such descriptive language can enrich your vocabulary and make your conversations more engaging. Another practical scenario is participating in academic discussions. Picture yourself in a university lecture where the professor states, "Today, we will explore the impact of global warming on urban development." After the lecture, you ask, "Could you please elaborate on the strategies cities are using to combat climate change?" This type of dialogue requires both active listening and thoughtful questioning. Consider how you might summarize what you've learned in your own words. This practice reinforces your understanding and prepares you for future academic conversations. In addition to structured scenarios, spontaneous conversations are an important part of real-life communication. Imagine you're at a community park and you overhear a group discussing the latest local news. One person remarks, "The new park renovations have really transformed this area." You might join in by saying, "I agree, the improvements are fantastic. Have you noticed the new playground features?" These unscripted interactions offer a chance to practice impromptu speaking and active listening. Ask yourself, when was the last time you joined a spontaneous conversation? What strategies can you use to smoothly enter such discussions? Now let's explore a scenario that many of us face online, participating in discussion forums and chat rooms. In these digital spaces, language is often informal, filled with abbreviations and emoticons. You might see a post like, "Has anyone tried the new cafe downtown? It's lit." Even if the language is casual, it still provides insights into current slang and conversational style. Spend some time browsing online groups or forums in English. Observe the way people interact and try to incorporate some of these expressions into your own spoken or written communication. Consider also the challenge of handling disagreements or misunderstandings in conversation. Even with clear language, miscommunications can occur. I recall a conversation with a friend where our opinions on a current event differed. Instead of letting the discussion become tense, we said, "I see your point, but I have a different perspective. Can we clarify our thoughts further?" Using phrases like these helps keep the conversation respectful and constructive. Reflect on any disagreements you've experienced. What language could have helped smooth the situation? Practice using such phrases in role-playing exercises with a friend or by recording yourself until they feel natural. Let's now shift to another rich source of language practice, storytelling. Telling your own story not only improves your speaking skills, but also makes your conversations more engaging. Imagine recounting a memorable day when everything went unexpectedly. Start with, "One day I found myself lost in a busy city, and that experience taught me the value of patience and resourcefulness." As you narrate, include vivid details. Describe the sounds, the sights, and even your emotions. Storytelling helps you organize your thoughts and express yourself in a structured manner. Think about a recent experience and try to narrate it in English. This exercise will boost both your vocabulary and your confidence in speaking. Interactive exercises are an essential part of this journey. I invite you now to repeat the following sentences with me, paying close attention to the natural rhythm and emphasis. "I appreciate your help." Could you please repeat that? "I'm sorry, I didn't catch that." "That sounds interesting. I would love to join you." Repeat each sentence several times until it feels comfortable and natural. These exercises are designed to build your muscle memory for common conversational phrases. Now, imagine yourself at a live music concert. The announcer's voice, full of energy, fills the venue as they say, "Ladies and gentlemen, get ready for an unforgettable performance by tonight's headliner." Such vibrant expressions and high-energy announcements require you to match the speaker's enthusiasm. Visualize yourself in that setting. What would you say if you wanted to complement the performance? Perhaps, "The energy on stage is electrifying." Practicing such dynamic language can help you adjust your tone and pace to suit different emotional contexts. Next, picture yourself in a quiet bookstore. You approach a clerk and ask, "Could you recommend a good mystery novel?" The clerk smiles and replies, "Certainly. This bestseller has a captivating plot and intriguing characters." This simple interaction introduces descriptive adjectives and polite inquiries that are common in everyday conversations. How would you describe your favorite book or genre? Spend a few moments thinking about this and practice forming sentences that describe your interests in detail. Let's turn our attention now to public services. Imagine you're at a government office applying for a new driver's license. The clerk greets you with, "Good morning. How may I assist you today?" You reply, "I need to apply for a driver's license, please." The conversation continues with precise questions and answers such as, "Could you please provide a form of identification? And do you have all the required documents?" These formal exchanges require you to be both clear and concise. Practice such dialogues with a friend or even role-play them in front of a mirror. Notice how using polite expressions like "please" and "thank you" makes a conversation smoother and more effective. Another scenario involves visiting a healthcare facility. Imagine sitting in a doctor's office where the physician asks, "How have you been feeling recently?" You might answer, "I have been experiencing headaches and a bit of fatigue." The doctor then follows up with, "Can you describe the nature of your headaches?" Such conversations demand clear communication about your symptoms. Practice describing common health issues in simple, direct language. Repeating phrases like, "I feel unwell," or "The pain is moderate and sometimes sharp," will prepare you for real-life medical discussions. Digital communication also plays a crucial role in modern English. Consider video calls where you see not only the speaker's words, but also their facial expressions and gestures. In a recent video meeting, a colleague said, "Can everyone see my screen?" and quickly followed up with, "Please let me know if you have any questions." Video calls require a blend of clear speaking and active listening. Practice these interactions by joining online webinars or virtual meetups. The more you expose yourself to different digital communication styles, the more natural they will become. Now let's explore how discussing current events can enrich your language skills. Imagine listening to a news report that states, "Local communities are coming together to address recent flooding." Such statements are filled with formal language and important vocabulary. After listening, try summarizing the news in your own words. The report discussed how neighborhoods are uniting to deal with severe floods. This exercise helps you process information, retain new vocabulary, and practice summarizing, a key skill in both listening and speaking. Another engaging scenario is participating in group discussions or debates. Picture yourself at a community forum where the topic is the impact of social media on daily life. A participant might begin, "I believe social media has revolutionized the way we communicate, but it also presents challenges, such as privacy concerns." You might respond with, I agree that social media has its benefits, but I'm curious about its effects on face-to-face interactions. Engaging in debates not only exposes you to different viewpoints, but also teaches you how to articulate your opinions clearly. Reflect on any group discussion you've been part of. What phrases did you use to express agreement or to politely disagree? Practice these phrases until you feel they become an integral part of your conversational toolkit. Next, let's consider the practicalities of everyday shopping. Imagine entering a department store and needing assistance finding an item. You might approach a sales associate and ask, "Excuse me, could you help me locate the electronics section?" The associate might reply, "Yes, it's on the second floor, near the home appliances area." Such interactions, though brief, are essential in daily life. They emphasize the use of polite inquiries, clear directions, and simple language. Visualize yourself in this scenario and practice the key phrases. How would you modify your request if you needed additional information, such as, "Could you please show me where that is?" Repeating these exchanges can make you more comfortable in real-life shopping situations. Let's also look at scenarios where you might need to handle unexpected challenges. Imagine you're out with friends and suddenly the weather changes. You might hear someone say, "It looks like we're in for a downpour. Let's find shelter." In such moments, clear and calm communication is essential. You might add, "I'll grab my umbrella," or ask, "Does anyone know where we can take cover?" These spontaneous conversations require you to be quick on your feet. Reflect on any unexpected situations you've encountered. How did you communicate in the moment? Practice these scenarios with a friend so that when the time comes, you feel ready to respond confidently. Consider next a scenario involving a friendly debate on a lighthearted topic, such as discussing favorite cuisines. Imagine sitting at a dinner party where someone remarks, "Italian food is the best because of its rich flavors and variety." You might respond, "I love Italian food too, but I'm also fond of the spicy kick of Thai cuisine." This type of dialogue helps you practice comparing ideas and expressing preferences. Notice the language used. Words like rich, variety, spicy, and fond add color to your conversation. Ask yourself, which adjectives do you commonly use when describing food or other interests? Practice crafting sentences that incorporate these descriptive words to enhance your communication. Let's now transition to scenarios that involve nonverbal cues and body language. Even though our focus is on listening and speaking, nonverbal elements play a key role. Picture a conversation where a friend is explaining an exciting news story. Even if you cannot see them during a phone call, imagine how their tone of voice conveys excitement. Their laughter, the slight pause before a punchline, and the change in pitch all signal their emotions. While practicing on your own, try to incorporate these elements. Smile as you speak and notice how your tone changes. Even without a visual cue, these subtleties make your speech more engaging and natural. We've now reached a point where each scenario builds upon the previous one, enriching your understanding of real-life English. As you continue your practice, remember that every conversation is a stepping stone on your journey toward fluency. The everyday interactions we've discussed, from ordering food and asking for directions to engaging in professional meetings, participating in cultural events, and even handling unexpected situations, each offer valuable opportunities to practice and improve your listening and speaking skills. Imagine your future self confidently navigating any situation, whether you're conversing with a stranger in a cafe or leading a meeting at work. Visualize the progress you will make by immersing yourself in these varied scenarios, practicing key phrases, and learning from every single interaction. The more you expose yourself to natural, authentic English, the more intuitive and effortless your responses will become. Let's now explore even more nuanced interactions and advanced conversational techniques. Picture a lively dinner party hosted by a close friend. The host welcomes everyone by saying, "I'm thrilled that you all could join me tonight. Let's raise a toast to friendship and new beginnings." Conversations buzz around the table. Guests share stories about their day, debate current events, and reminisce about old times. In one corner, someone remarks, "This meal is absolutely delicious, a real feast for the senses." In another, a discussion unfolds about travel experiences and future plans. Notice the shift in language from casual greetings to more expressive, detailed narratives. How would you describe such an experience in your own words? Practice forming sentences that capture not only the facts, but also the emotions of the moment. Now consider another setting, a professional workshop where participants share innovative ideas. The facilitator starts with, "We are here to collaborate on creative solutions." One participant explains, "My idea is to develop an app that connects community members with local events." Following the presentation, the facilitator asks, "Can anyone offer feedback or suggest improvements?" This exchange encourages you to practice offering constructive criticism and expressing your opinions politely. Think about a project or idea you're passionate about. How would you explain it in a way that is both clear and engaging? Role play this conversation, focusing on clarity, organization, and the natural flow of ideas. We can also delve into the art of negotiating, an essential skill in both personal and professional life. Imagine you're at a market and wish to negotiate the price of a souvenir. The vendor says, "This item is priced at $20. You might reply, "Could you do $15? The vendor might counter, "How about 18? Engaging in such negotiations teaches you to use polite language while expressing your needs. Practice using phrases like, "Would you consider?" or "Is there any possibility of a discount?" Such exercises not only build your vocabulary, but also prepare you for real-life bargaining situations. Next, envision a scenario in which you participate in a creative brainstorming session with colleagues. The atmosphere is dynamic, and ideas flow freely. A colleague suggests, "What if we try a new marketing strategy focused on social media influencers?" You add, "That's an interesting idea. Could you elaborate on how we might implement it?" The discussion evolves with each participant building on the previous idea. In these situations, it is vital to listen actively, ask clarifying questions, and summarize key points. Reflect on how you might contribute to such discussions. What phrases would you use to express agreement, request further details, or offer a new perspective? Practice these conversational tools until they become second nature. Imagine, too, the challenge of speaking with confidence during unexpected interviews or impromptu presentations. Perhaps you're at a networking event and someone unexpectedly asks, "Can you tell me about your work?" You might respond with a brief, confident summary. "I work in digital marketing, helping businesses connect with their audiences through innovative online strategies." This type of spontaneous speaking requires you to organize your thoughts quickly and express them clearly. Practice by preparing a few short introductions about yourself and your work. Repeat them until they sound natural and relaxed. We've covered scenarios from formal meetings and technical support calls to casual dinners and lively debates. Each example emphasizes the importance of active listening, thoughtful questioning, and clear expression. As you move forward, incorporate these techniques into your daily interactions. Whether you're speaking one-on-one or in a group, every conversation is an opportunity to refine your skills. Now consider integrating multimedia into your practice. Audiobooks, radio shows, and podcasts offer a wealth of authentic language exposure. I remember listening to a popular British audiobook narrated by an actor with clear, crisp pronunciation. I paused frequently to repeat sentences and mimic the intonation. Such shadowing exercises can dramatically improve your accent, rhythm, and overall fluency. Choose a short audio clip from a source you enjoy and practice shadowing it. Notice the subtle inflections and the natural pauses used by the speaker. Over time, you will find that your ability to understand and replicate these patterns will enhance your overall speaking proficiency. In addition to shadowing, consider engaging with language learning apps that offer pronunciation and listening exercises. Many apps feature interactive lessons where you can record your voice, receive feedback, and compare your pronunciation with native speakers. This kind of immediate feedback is invaluable for improvement. Ask yourself, which app or resource has helped you the most so far? If you haven't tried one yet, explore a few and see which fits your learning style best. We have now covered numerous scenarios, from everyday errands and social gatherings to professional environments and cultural events. Each situation is designed to immerse you in real-life English and build your confidence in listening and speaking. As you practice these exercises, remember that improvement comes gradually. Celebrate each small success and view mistakes as opportunities for learning rather than setbacks. Now let's move on to exploring even more nuanced interactions and advanced techniques that build on everything we've discussed so far. Imagine engaging in a lively debate about current events with a diverse group of friends. One person might say, "Social media has revolutionized communication, but it has also created challenges in maintaining genuine relationships." You could respond with, "I see your point, and I wonder how we can balance technological advancements with personal connection. What do you think are some practical solutions?" This exchange requires you to listen carefully, process multiple viewpoints, and articulate your thoughts clearly. Practice summarizing what others say and then building on that with your own insights. This active engagement is a powerful way to improve both your listening and speaking skills. Think about how you can apply these techniques in your daily routine. Perhaps you can start a conversation journal where you write down interesting phrases, idioms, or new vocabulary you hear during the day. Reflect on conversations you had, what worked well, and what could you improve next time. This reflective practice turns everyday interactions into valuable learning experiences. Consider also exploring role-playing exercises with a language partner or even by yourself in front of a mirror. Imagine various scenarios: a job interview, a customer complaint, a casual chat with a neighbor, and act them out. This role-playing not only reinforces the vocabulary and expressions you've learned, but also helps you develop a natural, confident speaking style. Challenge yourself by switching roles. One moment you're the speaker, the next you're the listener. How does your language change in each role? This exercise will help you become more adaptable and aware of the nuances of conversation. Furthermore, delve into discussions about abstract topics such as dreams, ambitions, or even philosophical questions. For instance, you might say, "What do you believe is the most important quality for success?" Such open-ended questions invite detailed responses and require you to think critically in English. They also provide a platform for you to express your opinions and learn new vocabulary in context. Practice forming your thoughts on these topics and sharing them in a clear, concise manner. Over time, you'll find that your ability to discuss complex subjects improves dramatically. As you continue your journey, it's important to vary your sources of input. Listen to podcasts from different regions, watch interviews with speakers who have distinct accents, and read aloud from various genres, be it fiction, nonfiction, or even poetry. Each medium offers its own set of challenges and rewards, enriching your overall understanding of the language. Ask yourself, which source of English do you enjoy the most, and how can you incorporate it into your daily practice? Balancing different types of content will ensure you're prepared for any situation, whether formal or informal. Imagine a scenario where you attend a live workshop at a community center. The facilitator welcomes everyone. "Good morning, everyone. I'm excited to dive into today's creative session." As the workshop progresses, you participate in group activities, share your ideas, and listen to others with genuine interest. You might say, "I found that exercise very inspiring. It really opened my mind to new possibilities." Reflect on how these structured yet creative environments force you to adapt your language in real time, using both prepared phrases and spontaneous responses. How can you seek out more of these opportunities? Another engaging context is interacting with people in informal digital spaces. Consider joining an online chat room or a discussion board dedicated to topics that interest you. Whether it's a forum about travel, cooking, or technology, these platforms allow you to see natural written English in action. They also offer a less intimidating environment to practice your language skills. Read through discussions, note down interesting phrases, and even contribute your own thoughts. Ask yourself, what have you learned from online conversations that you might not encounter in formal settings? Embrace the diversity of language and use it as a tool to enhance your spoken English later. We have now journeyed through numerous scenarios and exercises designed to immerse you in real-life English. Each experience, from ordering coffee and negotiating prices to debating current events and storytelling, builds your ability to understand and respond naturally. Remember, every conversation you engage in is an opportunity to learn, and every mistake is a stepping stone to improvement. Keep challenging yourself, keep practicing, and most importantly, keep enjoying the process of learning. So imagine you're stepping into the world of English conversation. You might be feeling a little nervous or unsure of how to express yourself, but that's perfectly normal. Every time you try, you're improving your skills. When it comes to speaking English confidently, it's not about perfection. It's about clarity and comfort. Let's look at how you can start with small, everyday phrases. For example, when introducing yourself, you can say, "Hi, my name is," "Nice to meet you." This simple sentence is a great way to practice pronunciation and timing. Another great phrase is, "How are you today?" When someone asks you, just respond with something simple like, "I'm doing well, thank you," or "I'm good, how about you?" This keeps the conversation going. When expressing your thoughts, simple sentences are often the most effective. If someone asks what you did today, you could say, "I went to the park," or "I worked on a project." Keeping things clear helps your listener and makes you feel more comfortable. One challenge is knowing what to say next. The key is to listen closely. If they ask a question, show you're interested with phrases like, "That sounds interesting," or "I never thought of it that way." If you're not sure how to respond, it's okay to take a moment. You can say, "Let me think about that for a second." This buys you time to gather your thoughts. In more formal settings, like a job interview, you might want to use slightly different phrases. Instead of, "I like this idea," you could say, "I believe this is a good approach." It sounds more formal but communicates the same thing. The key to confidence is regular practice. You can practice every day, even for a few minutes. At the grocery store, try reading labels in English or saying the names of things you're buying. You can also practice with friends or family by talking about your day. Language exchange apps are also a great way to practice with other learners or native speakers. Listening to English podcasts, watching TV shows, or reading books in English will help you hear common phrases you can use. Try to repeat what you hear to get used to the rhythm of the language. And don't forget to celebrate your progress. Every conversation is a step forward. Even if you make mistakes, you're learning. The more you practice, the easier it will get. Another tip is to talk about topics you're passionate about. If you love sports, talk about your favorite teams. If you enjoy cooking, describe recipes. When you talk about things you enjoy, you'll feel more motivated. But you don't always need a big story. Simple questions like, "What did you do today?" or "Do you like this movie?" are great for casual conversation. Building confidence is a journey, not a race. There will be ups and downs, but as long as you keep pushing forward, you'll improve. So don't be afraid to make mistakes and speak up. Every conversation is an opportunity that brings you closer to your goal of speaking English fluently. Let's continue to build on everything we've covered, focusing on making your practice even more connected to your everyday life. Remember, immersing yourself in the language is key. When you listen to people talking, you pick up on sentence structure, emotional expression, and how to be clear. This is hard to learn from a textbook. Think about it. When you talk with friends, you speak from the heart. Let me share a personal example. I was once traveling and trying to order food where I didn't speak the local language. The waiter and I used gestures, pointing, and simple questions like, "Is this spicy?" We communicated. This taught me that it's not about being perfect, it's about being understood. The same goes for English. Practice speaking naturally, even with mistakes. This builds confidence. Think about the small things you say daily. When talking about a recent event, you might say, "I went to a concert last weekend. It was amazing. Have you ever been to one?" This practices past tense and storytelling. The beauty of using real experiences is that they teach you how to keep a conversation going. Let's imagine a chat between friends about their day. One might say, "I had such a busy day," and the other asks, "What did you do?" This is how you practice the natural rhythm of conversation, how one response leads to the next. When you listen, focus on details like word stress, pauses, and tone. For example, "I can't believe it," expresses surprise. Understanding the emotion behind words helps you understand the context. A friend once told me about moving to a new city. It was overwhelming at first. Everything was new, New people, new places, new routine. The word overwhelming described her feeling, and repeating new emphasized the unfamiliarity. This is common in everyday speech. You don't have to look far for examples. Listen to conversations at a coffee shop, on the bus, or in TV shows. If you're watching a show, notice how characters express surprise, frustration, or happiness. Emotional expression is as important as vocabulary. I watched a lot of sitcoms to get used to casual English. Phrases like, "Could you be any more dramatic?" might sound funny, but they're used all the time. Watching them in context helped me pick up the tone and rhythm. One big challenge is the speed of native speakers. It's faster than you might expect, but the more you listen to natural conversations, the better you'll get. It's okay if you don't catch every word at first. Let's not forget, speak in practice. Mimic real conversations. After a podcast or video, repeat some sentences. Focus on pronunciation and rhythm. You can even record yourself. Listening to your own voice helps identify areas for improvement. Also, learn different levels of formality. At work, you might say, "Could you please send me the report by the end of the day?" But to a friend, "Hey, can you send me that report by today?" The request is the same, but the language changes. In the workplace, you might email, "I just wanted to clarify what you meant in the meeting earlier." "Could you please explain it again?" This is polite and formal. With a coworker in the break room, you might say, "Hey, I didn't get what you meant earlier. Can you explain it to me?" Less formal, but still clear. Finally, remember the power of practice. The more you speak and listen, the more confident you'll become. Put yourself out there, engage in conversations, and make progress every day. With real-life situations, it will become easier to speak naturally and understand others. You've got this. Keep practicing and you'll see amazing results.